long and full life that's enabled, at least in part, by access to decent health care, and dying a premature and perhaps needlessly painful death because you can't afford the care you need. By the standards of 2025, Senator Joni Ernest's comment would have been little more than a minor scandal, gone by the end of the day. And if we lived even in the relatively recent past, demonstrating humility could have worked to Ernest's benefit. It can be inspiring to watch a person genuinely apologize. But we're in a new normal now. And so, the next day, Joni Ernest posted an apology video. It began well. "I would like to take this opportunity," she said, "to sincerely apologize for a statement I made yesterday at my town hall. I made an incorrect assumption," she continued, "that everyone in the auditorium understood that, yes, we're all going to perish from this earth." She didn't stop there. "I'm really, really glad that I did not have to bring up the subject of the tooth fairy as well. But for those that would like to see eternal and everlasting life, I would encourage you to embrace my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ." Remember, this was not a snarky, impulsive rejoinder. It was a considered response. She decided to film the statement and release it. There is no ambiguity. The video delivered exactly the message she wanted to send. The fact that a United States senator was that callous, and then she tried to twist her cruelty into a bizarre version of the Christian gospel, is worth highlighting on its own as another instance of the pervasive own the limbs ethos. But why bring Jesus into it? America has always been a country with lots of Christian citizens, but it has not always behaved like a Christian country. And for reasons that resonate again today. An old error is new. Too many Christians are transforming Christianity into a vertical faith. Lisa, would you give me a glass of water? Yes. Please. Okay. An old error is new. Too many Christians are transforming Christianity into a vertical faith. One that focuses on your personal relationship with God at the expense of the horizontal relationship that you have with your neighbors. To understand, let's turn to a much darker time in American history, when Christianity and slavery existed side by side in the American South. In 1970, Wendell Berry published The Hidden Wound, a book-length essay about the profound damage that racism has inflicted on us all. That's surprising. America has always been a country with lots of Christian citizens, but it has not always behaved like a Christian country, and for reasons that resonate again today. An old error is new. Too many Christians are transforming Christianity into a vertical faith, one that focuses on your personal relationship with God at the expense of the horizontal relationship you have with your neighbors.
Do you want me to finish it for you?
You want to finish it? I don't know why I'm having trouble.
Your voice now.
Right here.
Okay, I got that one.
All right, thank you.
To understand, let's turn to a much darker time in American history, when Christianity and slavery existed side by side in the American South. In 1970, Wendell Berry published The Hidden Wound, a book-length essay about the profound damage that racism had inflicted on all of us. Reflecting on Christianity of the slave-owning South, Wendell Berry wrote this passage, which is worth quoting at some length. First, consider the moral predicament of the master who sat in church with his slaves, thus attesting his belief in the immortality of the souls of people whose body he owned and used. He thus placed his body, if not his mind, at the very crux of the deepest contradiction in his life. How could he presume to own a body of a man whose soul he considered as worthy of salvation as his own? To keep this question from articulating itself in his thoughts and demanding an answer, he had to perfect an empty space in his mind, a silence between heavenly and earthly concerns, between body and spirit. If there had ever opened a conscious connection between the two claims, if the two sides of his mind had ever touched, it would have been like building a fire in a house full of gunpowder. The master hardened his heart to the plight of the slave by fundamentally rejecting the idea that his vertical faith in God carried with it a series of horizontal earthly obligations to love your neighbor as yourself, to do justice to the oppressed, and to care for the vulnerable. So long as the vertical relationship between God and man was secure, the horizontal relationship between men was of secondary importance to the extent that it mattered at all. Why would this fleeting life matter when eternity was at stake? Thankfully, we don't live in such extreme times. We're far from the dreadful days of slavery, and we've left Jim Crow behind. But I'm noticing a morphing of American evangelicalism back to the vertical, away from the horizontal, and that change is turning our gaze inward to our own well-being above all, sometimes even to the exclusion of caring about the fate of others. Let's look at a different, more contemporary example. In April, David Brooks wrote about Paula White, one of Trump's principal faith advisors, and her Easter offer of 7 supernatural blessings in exchange for a suggested offering of $1,000. My piece was focused on the cohort of pastors and their Christian followers who behave more like Trump than like Jesus. But I could have just as easily focused on the sheer selfishness of her message as well. Look again at the gifts White offered to her flock. God will assign an angel to you. He will be an enemy to your enemies, and he'll give you prosperity. He'll take sickness away from you. He will give you a long life. He'll bring increase in inheritance, and he'll bring a special year of blessing. The emphasis is clear. Look what God will do for you. It's all vertical. Honor God by giving Paula White a pile of cash, and he'll make you healthy, wealthy, and strong. Consider also the evangelical turn against empathy. There are now Christian writers and theologians who are mounting a frontal attack about the very value that allows us to understand our neighbors, that places us in their shoes and ask what we would want and need if we were in their place. But Christianity is a cross-shaped faith. The vertical relationship creates horizontal obligations. While Christians can certainly differ, for example, on the best way to provide health care to our nation's most vulnerable citizens, it's hard to see how we can disagree on the need to care for the poor. Put another way, when the sick and lame approached Jesus, he did not say, "Depart from me, for thou shalt die anyway." He healed the sick and fed the hungry and told his followers to do the same. Or, as the book of James declares, if a brother or sister is without clothes and lacks daily food, and one of you says to them, "Go in peace, stay warm, and be well fed," but if you don't give them what the body needs, what good is it? Again, these passages do not dictate any particular policy, but they do tell us that we must try to meet the physical needs of the poor here on this earth, even if our souls are far more durable than our bodies. People often ask me, the columnist, if they think the evangelical church has changed during the age of Trump, or if its true nature is being revealed. There is not a neat yes or no answer. Certainly, Trump's rise has revealed the extent to which the will to power has always lurked in Christians' hearts. When faced with a conflict between their stated principles and their access to power, millions of Christians choose power over principle, and they are continuing to do so every day. At the same time, some things have changed. An evangelical community that once celebrated George W. Bush's something program, the AIDS initiative that has saved an estimated 26 million lives, they have now either applauded or stood by passively as Trump has decimated Americans' foreign aid and damaged a program that was once one of America's greatest humanitarian accomplishments. Joni Ernst isn't the chief offender here by any means, nor do we think that she's consciously trying to narrow Christian doctrine to the kind of purely vertical relationship that enables so much justice. Senators aren't theologians, and neither are columnists. But politicians are weather vanes, as we're all tempted to be, and there's a foul wind blowing out of parts of American Christianity. Joni's first quip was a gun. Her apology video was no such thing. It was a premeditated effort to say exactly what she thinks we Republicans want to hear. The end. Okay.
So what do we take from that? First, we are not alone. This is a columnist in the New York Times, and you'll see columnists and opinion people do this all the time. And Jeff is an intelligent, world-traveled, accomplished person, and he is basically leading us or heading us in the same direction. So that is one thing I'm trying to bring from today's presentation, is we need to keep the faith, no matter how discouraging, how disappointing things are. We cannot give up, because it can and will get worse unless we can do something. The fact that, as he talked about the slave owner sitting with the slave in the church, talking about Christianity, the way people do this is they dehumanize their slave. They dehumanize the other person. If you listen to the Israelis, the Israeli grandmothers talking about Palestinians, how they should all be driven out of Palestine. It was never their country to begin with. They don't deserve it. They attacked us and killed 1,000 of us. So even though we've killed 65,000 of them, that is still not even. You saw the destruction of the apartment building. I'll show you, and I showed you pictures before, and I'll show you more pictures of what Palestine looks like. It looks like Dresden or Hiroshima or some city after World War II. It wasn't just targeted bombing of Hamas. Every hospital has been destroyed. There's no place to live. The Israelis say evacuate here and go here. The Palestinians evacuate, they go there, they get bombed there. Then they say evacuate there and go someplace else. They go someplace else and they get bombed. It is truly genocide is what is occurring. The Israelis are not evil people. They have dehumanized their opponents. They have gone through that process. Just like the slave owner does not consider black people as human beings. They are more like animals. They take their dog to church, and they love their dog, and they want to take their dog to heaven with them. But their dog is not an equal to them. That is the same mentality as we are seeing. I'll bring you, and I've started trying to be a little more active on our Facebook thing that I send out. And basically what I'm sending is cartoons that bring up the disparity, the division between what Christians believe, what we should believe, whether we're Christians or pagans or Buddhists or Jains or whatever. Every religion has the same basic principle, the golden rule: treat others as you would like to be treated. There is no religion, even Satanism does not say do evil to other people. No religion does that. So when people do that, it's because of their selfish motivation. So anyway, yes?
I was going to do what you were going to do. I was going to ask if we could bring Lisa into the picture too.
Okay. Did you see the news when that was on? This is what's, and there's been 3 or 4 articles about profiles and cowardice. And let me show you the opposite. I should have put this other one on first. Then we recognize this picture. John McCain.
Yeah.
This is profiles in courage. This is what courage is really about. John McCain does not believe in bigger government. He did not really want to see the Obamacare thing passed, but he wanted something passed better than that or different than that to give people medical care. Because all the Republicans at that time, 2017 or whatever it was, Trump's first edition, all they wanted to do was take medical care away from people. He said that's not right. John McCain had been diagnosed with brain cancer prior to this. He knew that he was facing a life and death problem. He had insurance as a senator. His medical care was guaranteed. He was voting not to take medical care away from other people. He cared about other people. He was a true patriot, a true American, a true conservative, a true Republican. If you remember back in the Watergate days, there are all kinds of Republicans from Tennessee, from Republican states who called Nixon and said, what you're doing is un-American. If you don't leave, if you don't resign, we will impeach you. Now, look what we have. This is Lisa Murkowski said literally to reporters on video, this is a bad bill. And what she did was bargained as much as she could for the state of Alaska. She wanted to continue whaling, for God's sake, because the indigenous people in Alaska take, I don't know, 4 or 5 whales, 10 whales, whatever. It's not like the Japanese whaling fleet that takes hundreds of whales. She bargained to get that. She bargained to keep Medicaid going for some of the people in Alaska. And then she voted yes on the bill that takes medical care away. And you need to be aware, Wayne Hospital, a large part of Wayne Hospital's income is based on Medicaid. If you saw the article in the paper, Wayne Hospital is at risk. If this Medicaid bill goes through, Wayne Hospital is in danger of closing. The chickens are going to come home to roost for people, and hopefully you'll still have a vote when that happens, so you learn. So anyway, this is when Lisa faced this guy down. This reporter asked her, how could she do that? And she basically just stared at him for like 20, 30, 40, 50 seconds, and then said, you know, it's a bad bill, but I voted for it because it needs to be voted for. She made some kind of excuse. Profiles and cowardice. If you saw the line of people surrounding Trump when he signed the bill, all smiling and clapping, taking food bank money is going to be cut, Medicaid money is going to be cut, actually Social Security in the future is going to be cut, all to give a tax cut to rich people. I mean, it is insane. It is truly insane. So, and I'm not going to shut up about it. So. Okay. Offering. Today is the first Sunday, so we have a fish offering. Fish is going to be more important than ever. And I've told you before that some of these people abuse fish. They go take food and then they don't appreciate what they're getting. But that cannot stop us from helping the people. There are sincerely people who really need the food assistance and who really use it and who really appreciate it. I'm going to do my best to find some and bring their profiles so we have some kind of rationale for it. And we're going to hear, "You Took Advantage of Me." closing hymn is 92, Mysterious Presence. I could not follow that one at all. The phrasing on that was just a little different. Okay, so extinguishing the chalice. Keep the chalice flame burning. Be kind, be brave, be just, be merciful, be hopeful. This is how we keep the chalice flame burning until we are together again to light it anew. By Adam Slade. All right, our postlude is Polka Dots and Moonbeams. Let's end on a lighter note. be without music. I love it. All right, our horse, our obligatory horse is, as you can see, the Buffalo Soldiers. There's always a complicating or a reality thing, and that's what the people who are controlling education don't want you to see as a reality. The Buffalo Soldiers were discriminated against, but in this sense, they found their own calling, they found their own right. But what were the Buffalo Soldiers used for? They were used to control the indigenous population of the West. So you had one outcast group controlling or fighting or eliminating another outcast group, all of it controlled by the people on the East who would not risk life or limb, except in the case of Colonel Custer, who made a disastrous mistake. So, Buffalo Soldiers and their horses. Let's see, we'll see you next week. We'll try and get April here. I will let you know. There will be donuts. You'll have to get them out of the freezer yourself and stick them up here, and you'll have to make your own coffee. Oh, also I wanted to ask, has anybody considered having a meeting in the basement? We can put a small TV down there. We can get a keyboard. I've got one that we can borrow. I'm not going to leave it here, but we can borrow it every Sunday so we'll have music. And it is cool. It is refreshing in the basement. You don't even have to have a fan or anything. And it would be a much more intimate gathering. We just set up chairs for a few people. And the TV screen would be considerably smaller, but we could still do the same broadcast and everything else. So think about that. We're not doing it next week because I won't be here, but we'll talk about it. And if we want to consider doing that, I don't think that would be a problem. And it would be much, much cooler than what we have now. If you've ever, any basement, if you remember basements from being a kid, but you can go down right now and see what it's like. And actually it's warmer than usual because I left the back door open and the front door to the basement open, so there's a breeze trying to blow cool air up into the upstairs, so it's actually warmer down there than it usually is. Okay, that ends our service at New Madison. Hope you had a good 4th of July, and you have plenty of leftover hot dogs and whatever to eat today.